Okay.
Okay, good afternoon. This is the Finance Committee meeting for February 8th. We'll call the meeting to order at 4:02 p.m. 4 p.m.? Yeah, I got 4:02 on my computer. And can I have a roll call for the Finance Committee?
Geraldine Bezekas,
Mark Hussey.
Andrea Wood.
And Don Hayes. Okay. With that, we have a quorum for the Finance Committee. Not in attendance right now. Would be Jean Dilda and Sam Grant. We'll see if they come in. We are being recorded for posting on the YouTube channel, and we are live on channel 9. And at this point, I have no additions or deletions. Does anybody from the committee have anything that needs to be added to the agenda for this afternoon's meeting?
I do not.
Okay. With nothing being heard, we'll make no changes to the agenda. We'll continue as is.
The reserve fund transfers on, right?
It is under new business, section 2.
Yes.
So at this point, Andrea, is there any correspondence to be reviewed?
No, checked the mailbox and there was a Christmas card and some old mail, but nothing significant.
Okay. Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, so under new business, we have,
Don,
yeah,
before you get to new business, I don't know what's happened, but I sent the December 7th and the February 1st minutes to Kathy, and she was going to bring them up to you and put them on the table there.
okay,
So somewhere along soon, you should be getting those.
okay, terrific, thank you. So I'll look for them and stop and see. If she's got them already on the table. I did not even hit the table. Look at the table when I was out at the copier. Okay, so with that, moving on to the new business, Ross was going to bring the IT reserve transfer.
It's right there for those that are here. I'm sorry, I didn't send one home. It's right in front of your notebook.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Everybody have to sign it?
I think just the chair signs it once there's a vote.
Oh, okay.
Who's it?
So you want me to
Yeah.
go through it?
Yeah, sorry, it's kind of like, don't need to share yet.
This is a reserve fund transfer asking for $13,603.89. We put into the MIS professional services account, which is currently has a balance of just under $1,000 at $956.77. This was drawn down, to my understanding, when a key network server died, and it turned out we didn't have a backup or any redundancy to it.
Mhm.
And in order to keep the network going, they had to get a new server. So that's what they did. And it was the type of a critical IT function that it couldn't wait until a town meeting and a July 1,
Mhm.
spend date. It had to be done right then and there. And I think this is part of the general networking upgrades that have been going on, but when they found that there was no backup to this server, we talked about different configurations, and this was the best solution that they came up with to do this. But it obviously took a big hole out of that account. So that's what they're asking for is $13,603.89.
And
So now we.
When was this done?
Late November, early December, I think it was done. And then the bill just came in. And that's when Terry brought to our attention that it was pretty much wiping out that account.
So we have a backup there for the back.
This part of the network has now been correctly or appropriately configured.
How just came in is just. In
Well,
other
I
words,
don't know.
why didn't it appear on the special town meeting?
The short answer is, I don't know. The longer answer is, I think it actually came in at about, I remember hearing about the failure at about the time of town meeting. And it
Oh,
probably
okay.
it probably took them a while because there were a couple different configuration options on how to do this. And I'm afraid I can't articulate what those choices were, but I know they went back and forth on doing something that would be cloud-based, doing something that would be physically designed in this building, and if so, how to actually set it up. So there was some deliberations back and forth on the best way to do this.
so this is an actual physical server that we bought and have in the building versus having a virtual server.
That is my understanding, yes.
Where is it?
I believe it's in the IT closet down past the town accountant.
Isn't anything that has to be temperature controlled?
It's in a temperature control room.
It is.
Okay, and I think the account to transfer to is the friends, where would the 13,000 be coming from?
I think they're asking for it to come out of the reserve fund.
What's in that reserve fund
Like, I thought reserve fund required town meeting vote to transfer.
No, that requires just finance committee. The town meeting votes to put the money in there,
now? Right.
and it's done so that you folks can make the decision on how to allocate the money out
Is
when
it that
necessary.
40,000? Was it that 40,000?
Yes,
Yeah.
Well, the 40,000 in the finance committee
Right, yeah.
amount, so that it's coming from the finance, the request is to come from the finance committee, 40,000.
no, the request is coming to the finance committee to take 40,000 from reserve
From
fund.
the reserve fund, which is in fund.
Well, we have a fund. We have a fund and a line item for 40,000 in the
Mhm.
budget. So I don't, if that's what we're calling the reserve fund, is that the line it's coming from, that we're transferring from? So that line has a line in the budget and an item. So we would be taking it from the 40,000, that 40,000 would come down to 26,497 and change. So that's,
So there's 40,000 in there now?
the finance committee has a line item for $40,000 in the budget. And Yeah, so we have that 40,000 in the budget. Last year, we used it for emergency repairs and fire department equipment. And so that's why I thought this reserve fund was a bigger bucket, nebulous, and didn't have a line item. What I'm looking at here is there would be a line item in the budget for 40,000 controlled by the finance committee, and we would transfer from that line into the IT department, this 13,603. So accounting wise, it's a debit on our 40,000 for this amount and a credit into the MIS professional services account for that 13,603.89. And really mess everybody up.
No? Well, I don't think we have much choice.
I agree.
And it seems to qualify as an emergency, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So, should I make a motion or not?
Yeah, I think we can. I just want to be clear, and they make a note on where the money is coming from, because it is a line item in the budget that it needs to transfer from.
I think that's what's said at the top of the form is reserve fund transfer, right?
Yeah,
This is not a line transfer that will happen
Well-
after May 15th.
it's gonna happen now. Happen now, right?
So it's not necessarily from, it's from the reserve fund, it's not from a line item.
Yeah.
Yes, we can, further along, we may find some items that are being underspent that we can transfer
Back.
money around. But that's something that the finance committee is selecting to vote on.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we, transfer $13,603.89 from the reserve fund into the, IT. As for the new for the server.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. We have the motion and second. Any further discussion? None being heard, vote please.
Gerald Bazikis, yes?
Andrea
Mark
Wood,
Hussey, yes.
And Don Hayes, yes. So that would be unanimous for everyone on the phone. Or,
Could you repeat the exact amount again, please?
$13,603.89.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Don, will you fill out that form so I can?
Yep.
Count it out?
mhm. Okay, that would be our new business. Thank you. And we have the next item on the agenda, section 3, meeting business. The finance committee needs to identify a representative for the audit committee. I have been attending the meetings in that we have not officially voted somebody to take that position on the committee, so I have been attending the meetings. Currently, the auditors have received letters from the town that could be filled out with the statement of work required for the audit. So we have any volunteers or recommendations for somebody for the audit committee?
Would you be interested in continuing with this?
I can. Yep.
Well, then I'd like to suggest that you do.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? None being heard. The roll call vote, please.
Gerald Bazikis, yes?
Andrea Wood, yes?
Mark Hussey, yes.
Don Hayes, yes. Okay. So I will forward that nomination to the Board of Selectmen for your assignment to the committee. Okay, we had, next item was the the meeting minutes. That will happen when I get copies of them. And so Andrea has updated us on that. And next item we had was little bit of the format and taking a look at where we are on the budget. One of Andrea brought up at the end of the last meeting that we should be taking notes with maybe a follow-up, somebody from the committee following up with the person responsible for the budget that we would handle. So with that, I have the omnibus budget in front of us that we would be looking through, and we can do an additional notes column where we identify our questions and the follow-up. I should be sharing. Mark, are you able to say, or Mark and Andrea?
Looks good.
Okay, so that's now, and what I did in this column H where we have colors is I just went through and did a math and a formatting to look at columns and identify percentages that were higher than I think I used 5% was the trigger to do the red. So that's just the piece. So as we look at the lines, we can certainly do that. So that will be our work going forward. Where we are. Okay. Along with that, the next we had at our last meeting also discussed a March 5th Saturday meeting to identify with or to meet and discuss the budgets. That March 5th did not work for Board of Selectmen. I sent a request out, but haven't heard from everybody. So would February 20th, the Saturday the 26th, be an acceptable date for everybody on FinCom to attend?
I'm okay with it.
And again, we'll set it up with the Zoom, so if need be, we can do
I
it
think
remotely.
that would work for me.
Okay. And Andrea? Okay. Come back here.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was talking to Kathy. I apologize.
Okay.
So is this a definite date?
It will be now. I have a head nod from Ross that the Board of Selectmen, it worked for them. It will work for us. We'll get a save the date out mailed to everybody and identify going forward.
Would you like me to send that or? will you send that?
If you would, I'd appreciate it. It's kind of like you've got all the names already. I don't necessarily, I would be going through and collecting them to do that.
And then will you be following that up with like a schedule? So
I think we need to do a schedule. Yeah, it's kind of like, because we don't want everybody in and waiting. So it's kind of, and we may not have questions for everybody. So it's a save the date pending any questions that.
And is there a time range? You'd start at, I'm guessing 9 o'clock and go till noon or go to 2, or how does it normally do that?
This would be my first one, so I don't know if it's the usual.
I think we went to noon, but I think it depends on how heavy the load is what we're gonna have to figure out.
Yeah.
I think it was 9 to 12 or something.
So it. Yeah,
We have to figure it out.
we have to figure out and then work through, is it a half an hour or 45 minutes for certain people? And then,
Some people drive 5 minutes. Yeah.
exactly, so,
Something we don't even need to see, really.
I just, so they
Yeah.
get expectations.
Right.
so let's do 9 to 1, and if we,
9 to 1, okay.
yeah, it's kind of like just, I'd rather have, if we
The
happen to
extra.
run over, have
Yeah.
it booked and that, and cancel it and close it down
Okay.
early. And that way, if say, for some reason we do run over, we'll build something into the schedule probably.
If you do 15-minute intervals, that would be 3 hours times 4 is 12, so another
Hmm,
16 appointments, give or take.
so,
Okay. I will tell them to plan on justifying the budget and the capital requests.
and definitely capital request, yeah, definitely, yeah, same.
Has anything happened with capital request? Has
Sorry?
anything happened with capital request?
Yes, I've been collecting capital
Okay,
requests,
okay.
and I have a draft
Okay.
5-year
Mhm.
plan,
Okay.
which got updated today, so this isn't current. Finance committee, I mean, the capital committee is hoping to meet this Thursday.
It's coming Thursday? What, do we know what time?
Yes, 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, okay.
So for those of you that are finance committee members and capital planning,
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock this
Okay.
Thursday would be good. And there's a Zoom session. We'll get you tomorrow if you need it.
Can I jump in there and say it's Wednesday, not Thursday?
You may, I'm sorry. Here.
It's, we're meeting Wednesdays at 4 for the next 3 weeks. And there is a Zoom link and they have all been posted with the town clerk.
The voice from afar.
That's right. All right, now I'll unraise my hand.
Sorry. I
So
didn't
we're
see it.
off of Thursday, we're on to Wednesday?
You're on to
Yeah,
Wednesday,
sorry, I
capital
don't know why I
planning
was-
is Wednesday,
I'm
I
looking
just,
back at my dates.
Me too.
I just went to the calendar to look it up. Wednesday's the
What's the day on?
Like tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, okay.
With that, with the discussion of the meeting is Saturday the 26th, that gives us, including today, three meetings to review the bulk of the budget, going through here so that we can set the meeting, set our questions, that sort of thing. I had put together a review priority list. I didn't mail it out to everybody. I can do that now since it's being presented here. I just picked a couple and put them on the top for the priority of what maybe we should review. Like police, fire, the communications. I put highway together of for the multiple lines.
Did you put fire, police, and communications together, or what did you do?
I just did them as 1, 2, and 3. I did, because communications is sort of runs between the two of them, I think.
Okay,
And fire and EMS and police are two different
okay.
budgets.
And I'm gonna have updated police and fire, hopefully tomorrow.
Okay.
They're coming.
And you said highway?
Again, this was, just my thought. We can, it's here to be, this sheet is kind of,
Oh, okay.
so, any thoughts on priority? What,
Well, I always think I always like to get fire and police out of the way.
Yeah.
It seems to be always the, big ones in the highway and communications.
Yeah. I had council on aging and library, as 5 and 6. Any,
What about recreation?
I did not put them on the list as a review yet, but as you can see on the percentage, they're sitting at a 20% total budget higher year over year. So with that, is that something you want to do that as say 7?
I think so.
A lot of the others are smaller. I'm thinking smaller in number of lines between them. Says facilities. We want to take a closer look at facilities
Yes.
next. Okay.
So where you want to put that, number 8?
Yeah, 8, and again, we can adjust them as we go, but it helps with a let's say a priority of where we're going. I did not put anything on the town clerks yet. I mean, I know the elections total,
Yeah, it's the elections that always,
but and again, that, it's a smaller total line, but what it is the multiple elections that we're having this
right,
year. So,
exactly.
but so we have them on legal was a one-liner.
And then I level funded for next year.
Yeah. It's kind of sorry, manage. Sorry, I get a page down. Perfect. So. I think the one I think is maybe important to look at and get the details of where we're going with that. Okay. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of talking and putting lines, not hearing anything. Everybody on the phone?
Yeah, I've just been writing them down.
So those would be your priorities for the interviews on the 26th.
I think on the 26th, just in general from here, looking at these, and then we can go through and identify questions that we may have individually, since this is the total line coming through. It's not the line by line review, but we can bounce back to that line by line review.
Well, and I will be glad to forward individual questions
Yeah.
to the departments ahead of time.
Okay. Yeah.
I know I've gotten a slew from Veronica that I'm gonna digest and then pass
Okay.
along if I can't answer them.
Yeah.
Certainly, if you've got questions, and I jotted down notes
For
on
my
the ones you reviewed last week. I think you got as far as legal on line 110.
yeah, I think that's where we were. Okay. So,
I was able to get February 1st minutes.
Okay.
We're still working on the December 7th.
okay.
That was Rick's text format. The
Okay.
other one is WPD, whatever that.
Okay. If you've got to forward it to me, I can get them translated to something reasonable.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me do that right now.
Okay.
Great. Thanks.
She's saying something was done in WordPerfect. Is that what the other?
That's
Yeah,
the,
so-
yeah, I think that's the extension for, if you have an application, you save it and it's kind of like, depending on where you are, it defaults to it. It's kind of like Word usually lets you import most of those formats and convert them to a Word format.
And I apologize for causing this extra trouble.
No, it's not trouble, that the computer does all the work. You've done the work and the computer just translates one format to another. Okay. Okay, any thoughts, any others that people would like to see on the priority list? Any change to,
What were your other ones? I see the,
okay, so, let me. Sorry, I didn't get to.
there you go.
Sorry. I can print a copy of this before I go to. If you want. I don't know if that makes it easier for you.
Well, I just give them a heads up that they're gonna be
Yeah.
prime witnesses, I mean, invitees.
Yeah.
Somewhat on target, but, how about, you want to invite the schools?
By the time I get downstairs, Anthony had them set to go.
Already done.
So we're
Okay,
all set, okay?
terrific. Thank you.
Do you want to invite the schools, or will that be a separate night?
I think schools is gonna be,
That should be a different day.
yeah,
I got a note from Dr. Denise Pigeon saying that there's gonna be the town's official FY '23 budget presentation from the Shelburne Valley Technical High School is February 11th at 10 o'clock. And there's Zoom information. I don't know whether you got copied on that or not, but
yeah, no.
do you want this invitation?
So they're not doing their usual, they're doing it by Zoom, right?
You're doing it by Zoom?
Yeah.
I think it would be, I'm not sure if I can make that one, but
Yeah.
it would be good if somebody could hear what they're gonna say, and probably,
Yeah.
I assume they'll be providing handouts or something
Yeah.
online.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and, Russ, last year, one of the lines on the budget, it happened to be result from, I believe, the contract with the library director, with the town administrator, fire, and police chiefs. Contracts were tied to a raise, the raise that to her contract. Is that, oh, do we, I think, it's an item that I did, we can raise it when we get to highway, but it may be a question on the first one that we have here, which is police. Do we have the right information for police chief?
First of all, I'm not aware of any senior department heads contracts who are tied to someone else's
It was,
increases
it
for
was,
FY '23.
okay,
Fire chief is has officially resigned, so that's off the table.
Yeah.
The town administrator will be a new contract.
Yeah.
Um,
So it may only be,
so that wouldn't be tied to something else.
Yeah.
The police chief, I was reviewing that contract today, and I think his contract says he gets the same increase as non-union department heads as a percentage. And I told him that that's gonna be 3% this year, that's the intent. And he believes that's what he submitted, and we'll verify that.
okay, yeah,
The rest of the police salary, I think he put in at the same rate as this year, because their contract hasn't been negotiated.
Mhm.
I suggested that he refigure it, he's gonna take probably this week to do that, at a 3% nominal increase.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're anticipating for the other unions, is a step of 2% and a 1% grid, so a 3% net.
okay,
And I would expect, I would hope that that's what we end up with in the police union. If we do, then we don't have to worry about a retro pay issue. And also,
Yeah.
my goal is to have it done before town meetings, so the right numbers in there
Mhm.
to be voted on. But, so I know he's got to adjust his officer's pay, and I'm gonna verify it, but I think his contract is not tied to being higher than everybody else's increase. That's what you worry about.
That's what I was worried about, if the, and if we have the proper, increase in for library also. Okay.
Do you want me to mention that there's new handouts
Oh.
for their notebooks tonight?
Yeah, that was, thank you, it's kind of like I had that on there, under work session.
Okay, we'll do that when you're ready.
So, we're actually there, it's kind of like we're into, so we've discussed, the minutes, capturing the follow-ups, priorities, all of that. We're into work session, and the first item on the work session is town administrator updates the workbooks.
Okay, so this week, the omnibus budget is the same as the one you should have in your notebooks. And that should be saying, in the upper left-hand corner, 130, 122A version. I'm anticipating that will change somewhat significantly by next week, so I hope to have detailed fire and detailed police in there. I just noticed I'm still waiting to see numbers from the Memorial Day Parade and Bandstand.
Mm-hmm.
And I put them in a total of what they had to ask for last year, but waiting for that.
Right, okay.
What I handed out or provided copies of here is the tax rate recap sheet that comes from the state.
Mhm.
And that's important because we've been talking expenses. We need to do now is start looking at revenues.
Yeah.
And what you can raise in taxes is a function of what you had last year, 2.5% over last year's tax levy, plus new growth, plus any bonding that's out of that. And the sheets that from the tax recap from the state help provide us with those numbers. Before I show you the spreadsheet on revenue, I want to sit down with the town accountant and verify that I've got the right numbers and whatnot. There's a sheet on debt where Terry said that there's 140,000 sitting in a capital premium ban account, bond anticipation note, that was used, can be used for anything that could be borrowed for 20 years or more. So there's some borrowing money available.
Yeah.
The other packet here, I've got sort of called revenue, starts with certified free cash that the state certified last December. It was like 2 days before town meeting.
Yeah.
It was $1,075,155. We spent 163,000 or so, 164,000 at town meeting. So there's currently a balance in free cash of $910,132. So that will be relevant when we start talking about capital expenses.
Yeah.
There's also some slides here that I pulled together that will show how much the cherry sheet has gone up over the last few years, how much local receipts have varied and gone up over a few years, because I think at maybe your next meeting, we ought to try to estimate what we think local receipts will be.
Mhm.
And the cherry sheet number is out, whether it gets changed before, by the time the legislature votes it, it's a different story.
Yeah.
But that's what you start putting together to figure out your revenues, is those
Yeah.
things.
Right.
The other thing that's handed out here is a whole mess of quotes that Rob has obtained from facilities. He is asking for a facilities pickup truck.
Mhm.
And you can debate the merits of that when you are ready, but anyway, he's got some quotes. So those are the sort of the handouts for this week. For those that aren't here, if they don't want to come in and get them, I'll be glad to send those out to everybody tomorrow. But I wanted you to have the information from the state, because I think we've got to calculate the tax levy limit and the tax levy ceiling to be sure that we can raise and appropriate everything. And then, of course, we'll be looking to see how much you actually want to raise and appropriate.
Right. Yeah.
Could I come down sometime on Thursday to town hall and grab those packets, or?
That would be March.
Yeah, I'll leave them on the table that's outside of my office, outside of this meeting room.
Sure,
And you can help.
thank
Yep.
you.
And maybe by then there'll be an updated capital 5-year plan. But there'll be, if there'll be copies on that table.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. And I noticed some of the information is filling in into these tabs that are in the book, but not
Yes.
with no.
Yeah, these are meant to go in the various tabs in the book.
Right. Yeah. And with that.
And Andrea, Misty was the one who really did all the books. I gave her a template and said, make 11 of these. I think she actually had some slave labor in the form of her children to help her do that. But I really appreciate her making 11 copies, including the handouts you're having today.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's kind of like the work is helps. Okay. Do we, for the FinCom committee, do we want to started at any details with police budget, see if there's anything that we want to start collecting?
We finished off at legal at line item 110, right?
We did.
And MIS is still pending.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think with what we just did, that changes the number that's going to be on the fiscal year 22 line for IT. So we just moved 13,000 to that line for IT.
Yes, but that doesn't change next year's numbers.
Okay, so it's just changed.
I mean, it would change the FY22 column if that's what you want.
Yeah.
I would suggest not modifying it based on reserving on transfers.
Okay, yeah.
In lines 114 to 117, I think those will go away because we basically paid for that in professional services on line 120.
And was there, I'm just looking at, for the IT budget, I would be interested in the services were provided. Have we added equipment, additional equipment into it that's going to drive up the base price? And with the replacement equipment, the questions coming in is really, is it all, what's the schedule? How much have we replaced? And are we on a 5-year rotation in trying to keep to a consistent number? Or, you know, what is the IT, what's the IT look like? I know when we went to December town meeting, we had the new check-in laptops with there. I don't know what the total quantity would be.
Those were poll pads.
Hmm.
You're
But-
talking about when you used to register or sign in at town meeting?
At town meeting.
Yeah.
Is that, are those connected to our network? Is it driving any additional IT costs? Because,
I would say essentially almost nothing, and those are in the town clerk's budget.
okay,
And since they were purchased this year, they don't show up as an expense in the FY '23 budget.
no, it would, on the IT, what I wonder about with the contract, are we paying per device, and every time we add a device that's on our network, accessing it, they have to prepare for it and load it with virus software and maintain it, make sure it's within their operating structure, which if we,
For computers and printers and such that added, I think you're correct.
hmm,
In the case of the poll pads, they don't go on the network in that sense, and if they do, I think they actually go on the state network to update voting
Okay.
registration.
okay, so that'll be a question probably.
So that's not a guardian.
It,
Import
that's
costs.
that's the big thing. It's kind of like make sure we get.
Excuse me, I have an IT question.
Yep.
In the past, when computers, etc., have been recycled, we never have enough, and never have any money in the budget to pay the cost for the recycling center. Carla requested that an article or in the budget, some money be put to cover the cost, because they only charge for what it costs them to get rid of those things. Everybody has to pay, including the town, not just the citizens. So perhaps we should address that issue.
I would wonder if that recycling cost isn't buried in facilities someplace. But
No, it's under the Board of Health.
Okay, so you're saying take them to the recycle center up on Mason and get rid of them there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember last year she went for a reserve fund transfer to cover the cost. And somehow she had made it out wrong or something, and it was not honored by the accountant. And then she requested that an article or it be put in the budget to be addressed.
Okay, good reminder, thank you.
So it's on the Board of Health rather than fertility clinic.
Just making the note. And like, along those lines, or I did, if somebody needs a new PC, should it be under the IT or is it a department, department by department?
If it's part of a 5-year rotation,
Yeah.
I think I would suggest it be under the MIS IT budget, sort of as a general expense. If they need
Okay.
something specific, and you could take the town clerk's poll pads, that's something that is specific to her department.
Yeah.
I would say it gets charged to the department.
Yeah.
So if it's sort of standard computer,
Yeah.
printer type thing, general account. If it's
Okay.
specific, charge to the department.
Okay, and the reason that comes up, the question here, in the building inspector, the note is saying that there's a purchase of a new printer. So,
What department?
building inspector,
What line item is that?
440.
So I think that could go either way, and I don't really have a heartburn which way it's done, but as long as we know, so that when the bill comes in, we charge it appropriately, and we don't have people pointing the other way saying, oh, it's a
Yeah,
central expense. No, I thought it was a departmental expense, and we all go.
but it's, yeah, that's,
So it is a departmental expense.
we want to be consistent with how we do it, so that, you know, if there is a need, it gets submitted and controlled within the IT.
I'm open to what.
And then they'd buy the toner and the printer too. I mean, the ink cartridges, things like that.
Well, that's where it gets kind of a gray area. It was, you know, some
Right.
departments were sharing and they were taking turns buying things.
Yeah.
But that's sort of messy as to trying to keep track of who does that.
Who bought it last? Yeah.
I know there's interest in a plotter, scanner, copier upstairs, but if they've got one downstairs and they're not using it at high volume, it makes sense to have one in the building, not 2 or 3.
Right, yeah.
And let them share.
Do we want to just
How
leave
does
it as
that
a,
work, though?
leave it as a,
Everybody get a piece of the. Yeah, or what?
well, that's, and again, when you've got a printer and it's more localized, it does seem as though it, you know, if it's resides in an office, then maybe it does belong in an office. I'm assuming we can print these copiers out here too, just like printers.
Yeah, so the one in
On
the
the
hallway here should be a central MIS one because everybody in this floor uses. it. I think if building department had a good scanner, printer, plotter, you know,
Yeah.
wide, that does 36-inch wide paper, you ought to share that, at least for the first year, to see how that works out, and then make that a general expense.
Yeah.
I'll discuss that with Chaz and see how he will.
Okay, yeah. Okay. That is really Sorry, it's kind of like we started in IS and I jumped to building inspector. Go back up. IS. So most of that's going to get filled in as you get additional information.
Right.
With it. Okay. And at this particular time, it's looking like level funding.
Yeah, that was just
Yeah.
me putting a placeholder in there. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it won't be level funded.
Also, I'd like to see with this, do we have a report from the IT support staff, how many questions they get and how many hours we have logged to date against the contract? Just to make sure, because usually the questions and the work and the investigation is where
So number of support calls.
number of support calls, total number of hours, and so basically I'm trying to see what the base is and what the difference over how close we're coming to that bit of money that was left for the trouble calls. And have we sufficiently budgeted for it?
Okay.
Okay. Been quiet on the line. Anything else under IT? Nothing being heard. We want to take and jump to the priority with the police total, see if we have questions there.
Don,
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions for Ross over things we've already gone over, like the selectmen's budget. If we do not rehire the human resource person or the outreach coordinator, do we have to pay their unemployment insurance until they're rehired somewhere?
Oh, you mean after the second and third year?
Yeah,
I think,
or even if we decided we didn't need the position and did away with it.
so our liability for unemployment is usually 26 weeks.
Well, it's greater now.
Okay, so are you asking about a past employee or these new
No,
positions?
if these two people, if we do not hire them, will we have to pay their unemployment insurance till they're rehired somewhere?
I don't believe it's until they're rehired. I thought 26, maybe it's 32 weeks that you have to pay unemployment. But I thought that there was a limit to how long you have to do that.
But
But
do
if they're
we,
not hired,
but do we pay, or is it part of our contribution to the?
There's two ways it can be done. You can pay per individual case, or you
Yeah.
can pay as a percentage of your salary, of your total
Of
payroll.
the
And I'm
total
not
payroll.
sure which way the town's been doing it.
The town is self-insured for unemployment.
Okay, so it's on a case-by-case basis. If somebody hits unemployment, then we pay the full ride until they're hired again. Or
Right.
until their full
Benefits expire.
unemployment time.
So Andrew, is your concern that if we hire someone in this position for this year and then we don't fund it for this next year, like FY '24.
Yeah.
That we then have to pay unemployment.
Yes,
Okay, so I think that is a valid
it's
concern.
potentially very expensive.
Yes, I would submit that that could be said for any position on here. If we lay them off
Right,
during the year or at the end of this year, and because we don't fund it in FY '24, you could face that same type of a cost.
right. But we're paying those other people. We're under the delusion, a lot of people are under the delusion that ARPA is paying for everything, and they're not. We've got to get to and fund these hidden costs in the use of ARPA funds. It's got me greatly concerned.
Yes, the opera funds go out to, I think, FY '26 before they start to peter out. And yes, if it turns out we don't want to fund them in FY '26 or FY '24, you could be facing some unemployment. But
Or if we
hopefully
simply
we can-
can't refund them.
if you lay them off for whatever reason, potentially there's unemployment requirements.
Okay,
But hopefully we can show and they can show the value that they contribute to the organization, and everybody wants to agree to fund them.
yeah, but if they can't, well, then we're still stuck with unemployment.
Or yes, probably a fixed number of weeks, but yes, that is an ongoing cost of when you lay somebody off.
Okay, my second question is in the accountant's budget. We have Terry and we have Mr. Saracen. I didn't notice him mentioned in the next year's budget. What is his status?
I don't know his last name, is that Dick?
Yes,
Okay, and there's also Lee is in there as the assistant accountant.
yep, I noticed that.
And so they're basically sort of splitting the part-time role.
Oh,
I
because
believe-
the budget shows her for an increase from 10 to 16 hours.
Yes. And I think that would probably negate having to bring Dick forward on this. Also, if we get a full-time accountant, that'll make up a big difference.
Oh, absolutely.
The reason we've got the three of them in there now is because everybody's part-time and they're doing the best they can to fill in the gaps.
Okay, so Mr. Richard Dick is figured into next year's budget. It's just under one line.
That is correct. I can
Okay.
verify that.
And then my last question is, under the treasurer, there's an amount for the contract with Vadar. Does the whole Vadar account appear under the treasurer? Or is that software account split between the accountant and the treasurer? It's not mentioned in the accountant's budget.
I should verify. I think this is based on the size of that number. That's all Vadar and it's all in the treasurer collector.
Okay, thank you.
But you're asking questions that I haven't got answers to, so I will try to get you those answers.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, just capturing that. Okay. Okay, anything else down through line 129? I know we visited Board of Selectmen line, the accounting line, and there was nothing with in Board of Assessors last week. Any other questions? Although I did ask the question about the Patriot Consulting for reval last time, and when I looked online, it looks like the last reval was FY 2019, so it looks like FY 2024 would be our next, the quinennial review. So just as a point of context there.
Is that generally a large number?
I think the last time I saw it in the budget, it was for 4,500.
Oh, okay.
So in my mind, I was putting it up, say 20% for next year, but it's in my mind. It's kind of like that's.
It
I
seems
had
to
no
me-
idea what the cost was, so I understand now.
It seems to me that we raised before, I didn't look, but $4,000 or $4,000, but every year up to the reval.
Ah,
So it's a greater amount that way.
Ah,
Usually they do it in an article, not within their budget.
Yeah, it should be done as an
Okay.
article if they're gonna, if you're trying to just sort of get a reserve going, it should be done as
Okay.
a warrant article.
okay, so I guess the question is, do we have a reserve article going for that? And it's and then when we use it, it would be allocated to this line and show used on this and as an expense against this line.
Would be set up as a separate account
So not,
under that warrant article and
Right,
charged to that
okay.
warrant article.
so not really part of the assessor's budget.
So there is a warrant article to raise $8,000 for the purpose of funding the assessor's FY 23 periodic inspections and property data verification program. Now that may be,
Okay, yeah,
but
but it's a warrant article, not a budget line.
yes. I think that's what that says. Though. Periodic inspections and property data verification program.
Yeah.
we were curious last week about the repair of maintenance equipment. Did we decide that was probably a plotter?
In which line item?
Line 58.
58?
Yeah. Um, I think it was talk. I'm thinking.
I've got that question. I will get that, try to get an answer.
Yeah. Yeah, for some reason, because it's coming back to my mind that it was an OC printer. OCE is the brand.
Huh.
But that's going from one quick budget cycle last year, we probably had the same question. If it's the same piece of equipment. Okay, so we've been close. Little slow, we're at 5:15, so it's kind of this point, I'd probably say let's do town clerk is next, because if we get into police, it's a big one and
Okay.
probably take us beyond our time.
And maybe I'll have new numbers for police for next week, so
Okay.
that'll probably generate new questions or different questions.
Okay, so that'll be good. Good place to go. Okay. So just as it goes on the screen in front of us, we've got the 3% increase for salaries. No increase on the expenses in the town clerk line, so there's nothing there. The town clerk total is definitely looking within budget. I don't, or within range. It's kind of like the 2.7 on the total budget is it's all the salary. I don't see anything to question there. The elections, the note is that, you know, we're going from last year we had a special in January and the annual, and that was it. In that budget this year, we have state primaries, state elections, along with the town elections. So the increases to cover the additional time. So even though the percentage is up, I don't have any questions.
I don't either. I think with the 3 elections, it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You're right.
Dawn, can I say something about the poll pads maintenance?
What?
Sure, the cold pads, those are the devices where we're logging in, where they're registering now instead of checking in the books.
That's correct. And
Yeah.
what I want to say is, and Ross, this is in what I gave you last night. The 1,200 for maintenance was included in the funding that we set aside for those with ARPA for the first fiscal year. We didn't really include 1,200 for maintenance for the remaining fiscal years, and so we might want to take a second look at that. But this should be 1,300 with a $25, because the 1,200 for maintenance is coming from ARPA.
Okay, so I can take $1,200 out of that line item.
Yes, you may. Yeah.
Okay,
And we'll have to look to consider that, you know, does that come out of the town clerk budget in the following years, or do we continue to take any maintenance required out of ARPA?
okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. And if you're raising your hand, I'm really not seeing it. I apologize because I'm sharing my full screen. I'm not seeing hands raised. So please, if there's any instructions instead of raising hand, speak up. Heck of a time to let you know that, isn't it? Thank you. Okay. And then the rest of the town, the rest of the elections, again, this is where I got the note for the 3 elections this year. We just pretty much tripling all the rest of the numbers. So the percentages look big, but it total is a number that covers the 3 elections. Okay. Right. Number 1, sorry. That sort of changes it a tiny bit, but still the same if we take into account the line exchange. Any other questions on elections section lines 149 to 158? None heard. We'll
3%
move on.
raises.
On the stipends. Yeah. And then a 2% raise for the expense of printing the street listing. And I don't see it, but that should be the end of the town clerk budget.
We make a motion to change.
Do we think we may adjust these still?
I think these sections are probably pretty final, other than taking the $1,200 out of their town clerk's
that's-
expenses for the ARPA funded poll
Because
pad.
in the past, we would make a motion to accept the budget as it stands with the one change.
I'll make a motion that budget as it stands with the one change.
For the town clerk, including elections and registrars.
Correct, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, with the, any further discussion? None heard. Roll call vote, please.
Carolyn Bezikas, yes?
Andrea Wood, yes?
Mark Hussey, yes.
Don Hayes, yes.
So does that mean she doesn't have to come to the Saturday meeting?
I don't think she does. I don't think she does. If she wants to.
Yeah. It does not appear this would be one where it looks like we don't have any questions with anything that's been put in. So yeah, that would be one person that gets a Saturday off.
Okay, progress.
Mhm. All those little buildings.
with that, we're at 5:23. Rather than start anything else, I'd say today we would be done looking at the budget lines. We'll start next time with the ones that we had talked about with priority and move from there. We have the book updates to pick up at the table here at Town Hall and update our books. And if you could, that I have any questions ready for next week. Our next meeting will be the 15th at 4 o'clock again.
And what do we do, it's the subject, where's the subject going to be next week?
I think we go with the list and the priorities that we
Okay.
have, the police, fire, communication,
Okay.
start working down the bigger budgets, the bigger.
Okay,
It makes
Um,
sense.
Work to the smaller ones, get the bulk and get the one. The smaller budgets, you know, don't seem to have as many questions. So,
the one's done.
yeah, get the big ones done, and then any questions, and that gives them the opportunity to prepare anything that they may need to come on the 26th.
Right.
Okay. With that, is there,
Make a motion?
you can make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting at 5:23.
We have a motion to adjourn at 5:23.
Second,
Second from Mark. And roll call vote.
Carolyn Bezikas, yes?
Andrea Wood, yes?
Mark Hussey, yes.
John Hayes, yes. We are adjourned. I thank you all for attending and try to be well.
Have a good night, everyone.